Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our AgeWell National Impact Challenge. This is competition 2, and we received a lot of applications for this region, and it was actually very difficult of a process to get down to the 5 finalists you're going to hear today. After the pitches, and while we wait to find out for a winner, we're also going to have a short but impactful panel on age tech, brain health that's going to take place, and we're really looking forward to that. After we see these great pitches. The audience is also going to have an opportunity to submit questions, so stay tuned for details on how you can do that. And we'll be announcing the audience winner of the Kobo Clara HD e-reader after the pitches as well. Now, for those in the audience who have not engaged with AgeWell in the past, a little intro on us. AgeWell is Canada's technology and aging network. We bring together researchers, older adults, caregivers, startups, partner organizations, and future leaders to deliver and accelerate technology-based solutions that make a meaningful difference in the lives of Canadians. So AgeWell researchers and supported startups are producing technology, services, policies, and practices that improve the quality of life for older adults and caregivers. So we're about to get started on the 5 great pitches, and if you do want to comment on the presentations, please use the hashtag AWImpact and watch live the Twitter feed from our handle at agewell_NCE. So with that, let's get started with the pitches. All right, so we're going to get started with our pitch competition here, and our 5 finalists are coming up. And to begin, I'd like to introduce our judges for this competition, starting with Peter Riccardi from Spectrum Healthcare. Peter, if you'd like to give a little intro on yourself.
Sure, thanks, Mike. I'm Peter Riccardi, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Spectrum Healthcare. I'm responsible for all aspects of business operations, including business development, service delivery, and technology. Spectrum has been in business now for over 40 years, and we offer a diverse suite of home and community-based healthcare services in Ontario. Today, we have over 3,000 frontline healthcare providers and back office professionals who are absolutely dedicated to delivering the highest quality patient-centered care. I'm excited to be here on the judging panel today, and I'm looking forward to the finalist pitches.
Thanks so much, Peter. Now we have Izzy from Bruskin & Parr.
Hi there. Thank you, Michael. I'm Izzy Calder. I'm a partner and co-leader of the Artificial Intelligence Practice Group here at Bruskin & Parr. We're based in Toronto, Waterloo, Mississauga, and many well-dressed professionals work in our Montreal office. And it's been really wonderful working in the field of software electrical patents over the years. I started my journey at U of T, actually in an engineering science program, and then I did a master's in electrical. And I am very passionate about startups and about mentoring teams. I volunteer at the U of T hatchery and mentor teams there, and also at the Impact Center. And I'm really happy to be here today and judging with everybody else. Looking forward to seeing the pitches.
Okay, thanks so much, Izzy. And finally, Garth from OBI.
Oh, hi, my name is Garth Smith. I'm VP of Business Development and Partnerships at the Ontario Brain Institute. We've been around for about 10 years. We're provincially funded. We also get money from industry and from philanthropy. Our role is to kind of catalyze the translation, transfer of neurotech research and commercialization to have a patient impact. The team I lead has a couple of commercialization funding programs. We have about 82 companies that we support, and we look forward to helping out one of our national partners, AgeWell, in their pitch competition. Thanks.
Okay, thanks so much, Garth. So now we'll bring in the first finalist to pitch, and that is Braze Mobility. And Pooja, hello, be pitching there. Hi, Pooja. If you do have any slides you wanted to put up while you pitch, you can feel free to do that. We won't start the timer till you start your pitch.
Hi, everyone. My name is Pooja Vishwanathan, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Braze Mobility. We build innovative solutions to help increase safe and independent mobility. And instead of talking to you about the problem, let me show you the problem. This is Richard, an experienced power wheelchair user in Vancouver, and this is a documentary style video where he tells us why he hates going to the grocery store. That's because of this. Now you can imagine the kind of embarrassment and loss of dignity that an accident like this might cause, but Richard's not alone. In fact, there are over 1 million power mobility device users in the US alone, and according to a report, 20% of these users had experienced at least one major collision within the last year, and 11% of them have been hospitalized. These safety concerns become even more problematic in a long-term care setting where the majority of residents have dementia and experience symptoms that make operation of power wheelchairs challenging and sometimes even impossible. These safety concerns often lead to exclusion altogether from the use of power mobility devices, even when no other option for independent mobility exists. I saw this as a violation of our fundamental human right to mobility and founded Braze Mobility. Our products restore dignity and independence back to the driver, reduce caregiver burden and stress, decrease property damage, and increase safety not only for the driver, but others in the environment as well. Last year, we commercially launched the first blind spot sensor system for wheelchairs that can automatically detect obstacles and provide multimodal alerts to the driver through intuitive lights, sounds, and vibrations. However, this system might not be appropriate for individuals who are unable to respond to prompts because of cognitive impairment and or motor control issues. And so we're proposing a new system that will automatically slow down and stop the wheelchair in the case of an imminent collision. We've already established a partnership with the world's largest wheelchair controller manufacturer and have also developed a proof of concept of this new system called Moana, Module for Obstacle Avoidance and Navigation Assistance. The mobility aids market is over $1 billion, and our entrance market is 3.3 million wheelchair users, and this is in North America. Our two main types of competitors are smart wheelchairs. These are wheelchairs with sensors embedded in them. They cost tens of thousands of dollars and are not currently commercially available in North America. In fact, they're only being used for research and clinical purposes in Europe and Asia. And then the other type of competitor is backup cameras, which are typically used for automotives and really don't adapt well to wheelchair users. They come with bulky interfaces, and the sensors can't be adjusted for outdoor and indoor use. Our system is affordable. They start at $2,000, highly customizable and adaptable to the user, and we've already established several strategic partnerships. I have a PhD in assistive technology and robotics and have been leading smart wheelchair research and international collaborations over the last decade. My team has expertise in manufacturing, accessibility design, and business development. We have end users on our team that help move our innovation forward. We're also supported by several organizations you see here and have as advisors Michael Tamblin, CEO of Kobo, as well as Alex Neolades, CEO of AgeWell. In terms of our potential to bring this new technology to market, we've already been approved as of early this year by the two largest distributors in the US and Canada. That gives us access to over 70% of market share. As I mentioned, we already have a partnership with the largest wheelchair controller manufacturer in the world, which allows us to integrate with the majority of wheelchair electronics in the market. We've already been approached by 3 out of 4 global leaders for an OEM partnership and are going to be finalizing that partnership end of this quarter. And we have independent rep groups in 35 states, which gives us local presence in the majority of the country. Our short-term plans right now are to finish development of Moana and do a pilot with Cleveland Clinic, which has already been approved for a pilot. This is where our pitch money, the funding will go if we do win the competition. We'll complete R&D as well as create units for this pilot. We've also established a collaboration with the Gleason Foundation, which is interested in an application of driving behavior analysis that's possible with our Moana system. And this will become a piece of a larger data analytics platform that we will be launching next year. Our success stories include Phil Ratzlaff, a US Marine veteran who has ALS and is legally blind, to David Watson, who is a long-term care resident with peripheral vision issues. Both of these users continue to stay independent and mobile today, thanks to our product. And with our new proposed system, we will widen access to several more users. So our impact is that not only have we helped change the dialogue from should we take power mobility away from this person to what can we do to increase independence and safety, we've also built products, generated revenue, and created jobs in Canada. And most importantly, helping to shape attitudes and policies and change attitudes and policies around accessibility. And that's what we're the most proud of. So in summary, we're solving a significant problem that affects millions of individuals all over the world. We're the first company globally to provide a practical and
Sorry, Pooja.
and we hope you'll support us in supporting millions of older adults to gain independent mobility. Thanks.
Okay, great. So thanks for that, Pooja. And hand it right back to judges for Q&A.
Sure, I have a question, Pooja. Thank you for the presentation. My question is, if you could please elaborate on a little bit more on your customer acquisition strategy.
Yes, so let me just go back to our business model here. So we've actually been in the market for a couple of years now, and that's where we've really kind of established our go-to-market strategy. When we started off, we developed direct sales that was mainly targeting leading institutions and clinicians. Over the last couple of years, we've been able to establish these partnerships with distributors that have over 700 reps across the country. And so our major strategy is through these distributors who not only buy the product from us and support it and apply for reimbursement, for example, which is something that only these durable medical equipment providers can do. So this is how our users can access things like Medicaid funding and other private insurance. And that's really where the distributors come in. And that's why the partnership with them is so important. And we can't really do direct sales. Now, we also, in order to add another layer, because a lot of us know that distributors aren't the greatest with pushing sales, they have hundreds of products. And so we also covered off another layer, which is these independent rep groups. Now, we've signed on 7 independent rep groups. They cover 35 states. But the great thing about that is they're actually some of the top independent rep groups for complex rehab, which is the space they're in. And so they only have, half a dozen lines or so. So they're the ones that are going out into the field, and their primary marketing is to therapists who prescribe the product. So therapists are really the gatekeepers of this technology. And a lot of the success that we've had is through selling, kind of pitching to the therapists. We also supplement our reps' efforts by direct LinkedIn marketing to therapists. And that's actually something that we've done specifically during COVID, which has led to really positive outcomes.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi there, it's Izzy here.
Hey, Izzy.
Sorry. Hi, how are you doing? Wonderful to see your pitch here. Thank you very much for that. I just wanted to ask, in terms of the proprietary technology that you're developing here, and of course the the joint R&D that is going to be happening. What is your? Can you speak a little bit to your IP strategy?
Yeah. So currently we do have patents pending. So we had filed for patents in U.S., Canada, and Europe. That was mainly around the blind spot sensor system. So it was the physical device. So it was kind of the positioning and aligning of the sensors and some of the functionality. Now, with a lot of the new development that's coming, it's predominantly software. And my strategy with this, and of course, I'd love to chat more with you, is because of the abundance of software in the smart wheelchair space that has been published. My general strategy will be to keep the software as proprietary as possible, especially the data. And so now that we're starting to collect data, that is going to add to our competitive advantage as well. So I would probably, at least my current strategy is to restrict IP protection to some of the hardware software balance components and keep a lot of our core AI that's going to be coming out as just proprietary as much as possible, just copyrighted and not actually patent that.
Right, and keep it as much as possible as a trade secret, that strategy. Okay, thank you.
Software patents are harder to get anyways, but especially in our space. I mean, this has been an area of research for several decades. And so I imagine there will be pieces that do come out where there might be a hardware component that might be easier to patent.
Do I have time for one more question, Michael? Hey,
yes.
Patricia, how you doing? So if you were to develop Moana, I stand by the way, how much competition would you have with that type of technology in the wheelchair space?
Yeah, do you mean from the manufacturers themselves?
Just in general, do other wheelchairs have car-like avoidance systems attached to them?
So this is a brand new, in fact, we're charting really new territory here. We were the first and still are the first blind spot sensor system in the market currently. There's no other blind spot sensor system that exists. And so largely the industry is actually looking to us to set the path forward. So a lot of the reason that the manufacturers are reaching out is because The model in this industry generally tends to be that a lot of these sort of sort of innovations outside of the bread and butter, which is feeding, happens through smaller companies that then get acquired or licensed by the bigger manufacturers. And that's really kind of the play that we're going for here. In fact, a lot of the OEM partnerships that we're negotiating, it's likely going to be with the manufacturers that we're talking to right now. They're essentially going to bring exclusively distribute a fully integrated version and then continue to also distribute to other models a more aftermarket version.
So last question before you go. Talk to me about your own manufacturing capacity to keep up with these partnerships.
Yeah, so I mean, we've got supply chain that, you know, we've got a person actually that's local here in Canada, but has suppliers, you know, all across. And he's got suppliers that can perform at different volumes. And so we essentially just work with him. And as soon as we move to the next kind of where we get the next volume break, he moves to different supplier. So he's got an entire electronic supply chain worked out that's US, Canada, Asia, you know, we've got kind of the different margins or the different volume breaks. And similarly with manufacturing, we're actually partnered with a contract manufacturer in Taiwan. So they do a lot of kind of the lower volumes. And then when we scale up, they move to their Chinese partner.
What about
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
We'll talk later, Pooja. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, fine.
All right. So thanks, Pooja. Thanks for that. So hi, Alex.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Theodore, and I'm the founder of NeuroFit. For me, this is where NeuroFit all began. That's my dad. And in 2005, he suffered a life-changing stroke. For him, rehabilitation was hard, unenjoyable, and very restrictive. And I saw how disengaged, unmotivated, and frustrated he was. I knew there had to be a better way. And this inspired me to begin my journey in healthcare. And he wasn't alone, as millions of Canadians suffer from the effects of these types of brain injuries to the brain. With over 3.4 million are affected by acquired brain injury each year, this costs over $76 billion to our government, with these numbers climbing nearly 30% over the next 10 years. So seeing this as a researcher, a rehabilitation professional, and as a caregiver, I knew this was a huge problem for many other people just like my dad. Bringing this knowledge to NeuroFit, I noticed key problems that exist, namely personal and organizational issues. On the personal side, engagement issues greatly impact motivation and the quality of care outcomes. With organizations, limited time and resources are a constant struggle. Together, brain health and wellness is more important now than ever before, especially for our older Canadians. Well, we've solved that. NeuroFit is a virtual reality rehabilitation tool. You could think of it as the Fitbit for the brain. Now, our proprietary deep learning method personalizes your care according to your unique mood and abilities to inspire, motivate, and educate. And in light of the current challenges and access to care with COVID, in exactly 1 month, our team created a new product, NeuroFit Web, a way to provide care anytime and anywhere, with both our VR and web solutions working together to seamlessly integrate and transition people from at-home to on-site care. Now, our system takes a 3-step approach to assess, focus, and personalize accordingly. We believe everyone has unique skills and abilities, and we want to respect that in providing a closer look at what it means to be you in the recovery journey. With data-driven, scientifically backed exercises, we provide deeper insights for professionals while empowering people to stay motivated. And we are the people who can get this done. I'm proud to share our team with complementary and diverse skills ranging from science, engineering, development, business, and entrepreneurial experience. And we have some great academic collaborators and features to back us up as well. Now, unlike our competitors, we offer a product that assesses not only the brain's abilities, but also how people are feeling and what motivates their rehabilitation. This enables professionals to quickly craft a personalized intervention catered to the person's evolving needs. We offer a cost-effective solution for our clients to increase their retention, enrollment, and engagement in the therapy process. We also expand their services reach and providing care, resulting in increased revenue potential. We are building a strong foundation and enforceable IP strategy, including patent protection and trademarks, giving us the competitive edge to grow. And we're already making money. With a massive growth opportunity ahead of us, with care providers now relying greatly on video conferencing methods, there is no measurable feedback or accountability between sessions, leaving people feeling less engaged and resulting in poorer health outcomes. Since last month's launch, we've secured 3 national clients, 1,000 sessions to date, and are working on our Canadian-wide rollout strategy. Word of mouth alone has generated significant interest and evangelists in our product, reflecting the future needs of a more blended approach to care, being both on-site and remote. With over 30,000 long-term care facilities, clinics, and hospitals in North America, there's a huge market potential. And we believe, based on our 90% referral rating, we can capture 30% of this market share in the short term, resulting in a $50 million sales opportunity. Now, we conducted a pilot study with 15 older adults for 5 weeks with key improvements in cognitive abilities, mood, and engagement. Meaning the more engaged people were, the more successful they were in building new skills and abilities, despite harder tasks, with mood remaining elevated in both the short and long term, even those with depressive traits. This research showed the robust potential to support older adults' brain health and wellness, and these funds will greatly enhance our speed at deploying these services, and now is the perfect time for us to drive further awareness, keep businesses and older adults able to access care, and support those who need it most. Lastly, part of the funding will support our clinical validation to evaluate the capabilities for hospitals and further care professionals. With your help, we'll be able to connect the dots in their care to empower older adults and others living with brain injury to lead happier, healthier lives with NeuroFit. Thank you.
Thanks. It's over to the judges now for Q&A.
Thank you very much for your presentation here. It sounds like you have a good IP strategy already in place. I just have a question about the personal data that you are handling. There's going to be quite a bit of personal data of different types. How are you ensuring compliance with regulatory requirements?
Absolutely. That privacy is number one in our book. So what we've done is we double encrypt the way that data is transferred to and from our clients. However, we do manage this, but they have access to it. And we also have a feature in place whereby only the respective clinicians and care providers have access to their respective set of individuals, so that you can't look across data unless that access is explicitly provided. So the encryption and the privacy on board are the two methods that we have in managing our safety.
Just a quick supplemental, are you aggregating the data for additional features in the product? Is that part of how the product operates?
Yes, so our dashboard aggregates all of the information, and it allows professionals to look not only zoomed in at their individual patients or members or whoever they may be, but also to look across members of certain demographics, ages, education, diagnoses specific. So yes, we do have that functionality as well.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alexander, great presentation.
Thank you.
Can you give me a sense of what existing clinical validation you have right now, and also what's your competition?
Absolutely. So existing clinical validation that we have right now exists solely in smaller, more closed-knit kind of research projects that we've conducted. And these have been done under the supervision of academic collaborators, such as people from U of T, working in the occupational therapy department. So we're working closely with them to both inform and also test this product. Further to that, it's just been simply, like I said, on closed data, more research driven to evaluate the existing small scale abilities, but using this as a kind of a platform to say, okay, now we can explore larger scale opportunities. But yeah, and in terms of
one second before you do competition, what's your best result from these studies?
The best result is primarily on the mood-based and motivation and engagement. So the cognitive abilities, we're noticing that they are occurring. We're seeing improvements in them, which is fantastic and exactly what we want. But what we're seeing really clearly is the improvements in their engagement and mood. And this is really this is a really key indicator in the quality of someone's outcomes and the possibility of their successful recovery journey. So that's the kind of most robust features, and I have some slides as well too to indicate that if you'd like to see. Regarding the competition, right now we have competitors in the US. However, we recognize what they do and what they don't do, and we are in a place where we're occupying the cognitive rehabilitation space. So this is our focus. All our competitors primarily focus on the physical rehabilitation, but moreover to that, we take that more holistic approach by looking at the mood, the emotions, the motivations, and all of those great variables that really do speak to the nature of what they're doing and how they're performing.
So is that your most distinctive feature, disruptive feature versus the competition?
That, and also we have a predictive feature as well too that's coming out as well, and that's part of our IP strategy. So these would be collectively our kind of the key things that I would say set us apart. Thank you.
Alexander,
Mm-hmm.
what target market are you specifically targeting, or are you? And is this targeting more treatment or prevention as well?
That's great. So the target market we're focusing right now is on the cognitive dysfunctions, I would say. So acquired brain injury is kind of like the umbrella term we use. So this applies to stroke, any sort of injuries to the head, fall-related accidents, concussions, and that is our primary segment. And in terms of, and the second question, I'm sorry, remind me, you said?
Is this about treatment and prevention?
Yeah, right. So the way our focus is more on the rehabilitation. However, we recognize in providing the rehabilitation and personalizing it, we also provide assessments. Now, these are not diagnostic tools. These are not, this is not something that makes big, bold clinical statements. However, that is something that this money would help us aim towards. But it primarily exists as an assessment and personalized rehabilitation tool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael,
Okay.
do I have time for one more quick one?
Garth, there's not really time left.
I'll talk to Alexander later. That's fine.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Alex. That was a great pitch, and thanks for Q&A.
So when I was young, I began volunteering at long-term care facilities where my mom used to work. And while I was there, I witnessed her perform the back-breaking task of transfers and injure herself. Now, transfers weren't just inconvenient for my mom, but I also saw that they were extremely undignified for individuals being transferred. And in fact, there's not a single person I know who liked the way they were being transferred. Now, these transfers take place hundreds of times in a given facility, and what I'm referring to here are the necessary routine tasks of lifting and moving immobile individuals between beds, stretchers, or wheelchairs. Now, these transfers take place hundreds of times in a given healthcare facility, with each requiring between 2 to 8 caregivers exerting back-breaking efforts. This amounts to over $18 billion in annual costs directly spent on injury and labor costs in North America alone. At Able Innovations, we're going to revolutionize and change this with our first product, the Delta platform. The Delta platform allows these transfers to be done in a safe and dignified manner. It's done by means of our compact conveyor belt type platform that is able to compress the surface one is on, safely roll underneath you, lift you up, and transfer you between surfaces in an automatic fashion. What you're looking at here is a demonstration of a half-scale prototype that was developed as a part of an age-well funded study in a partnership with Elizabeth Briere Hospital and Carleton University. And the point of the study was to understand the safety of a device compared to existing devices. Fortunately, the results are just going to be published. Our device was shown to be 5 to 10 times safer in terms of the peak forces exerted on individuals than prevalent methods of transfer. Further, because of what's going on with COVID, we're currently investigating incorporating and integrating self-cleaning mechanisms to automatically disinfect itself. What this means for hospitals and healthcare facilities is significantly reduce liability when it comes to injuries to patients, staff injuries. As I mentioned, our device will offer contactless transfers, significantly reducing the spread of infections within facilities. The task of transfer will now require less than a quarter of the individuals required, and those individuals could be redeployed to achieve better healthcare outcomes, improve workflows, and ultimately we have huge potential to increase revenue in clinical settings. In order to monetize on this, we've developed a very sustainable business model where for a low monthly lease, facilities will be able to save over 10 times the amount they're investing in our device. We've achieved great traction to date at these early stages. As I mentioned, we had an age-well funded study for which Briere participated in it with us. Now, during the peak of COVID, they wrote us a letter of support, their director of nursing, stating that we want your full-scale devices to test as soon as it's ready because they really feel that it could help them in what's going on at their facilities right now, with a strong intention to pilot. Now, there's other facilities that we're having similar discussions with. As a result, we've charted a very favorable regulatory pathway that would allow us to achieve devices for pallets by the end of this year. We've also identified significant areas where we could develop IP assets in the transfer and automation space. Now, none of this would have been possible without key partnerships, including AgeWell, that have trusted us and allowed us to get to the point where we are today. As mentioned so far, we've shown that our device is safe to use, and right now our team is going at breakneck speed to develop our full-scale beta prototype so it's ready for the end of this year so that we can give it to facilities that want and need to try it. By this time next year, we'll commercialize our product, and we don't want to stop right there. We want to address all types of transfers and all types of settings, including at home, which could really transform how individuals spend their golden years and give them the choice to stay at home longer. Now, the lateral transfer hospital market is a $4 billion a year opportunity, but this is only going to multiply as we get into the long-term care and home use. And the demand for products such as ours is only going to grow due to what's happening with COVID, the aging population, and the compounding effect of the nursing shortages. Patient lifts and transfer sheets are the most prevalent methods of transfers. They account for over 98% of devices. We've started seeing a new class of electromechanical devices that utilize conveyor belt type platforms, but they require a trained technician as well as they're highly immobile. The best way to explain the difference is there were MP3 players and then there were iPods. We're really focusing on the user interaction. Our device is mobile, it's compact, it's easy to use. None of this would have been possible without a stellar team. Myself and my CTO, Phil, have over a decade of experience. We have launched many commercial products, a few of which are stated there. We also have excellent advisors that include individuals who've raised tens of millions of dollars, and Dr. Linda Maxwell is a very well-known figure who's highly supportive of our vision. So I'm here today to ask you for your support in helping us deliver these beta prototypes to hospitals by the end of this year. It will also kickstart our first round of seed investment. With an experienced team, products such as ours are needed now more than ever, and I invite you today to help join us on our journey to help improve the quality of lives of millions around the world. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
I'm 10 seconds over there.
Thank you anytime, that's fine.
Fantastic. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Hey, Jay, this is Gareth. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Gareth. How are you doing?
Not too bad. What gives you any indication of other customers aside from Briere?
Absolutely.
Where do you see your first sales going?
For sure. So we've started conversations with a couple of hospitals out in Waterloo, including St. Mary's. And so what's happening there is they really see the economic value because of what's happening with COVID and healthcare budgets are taking a big hit. They're really looking for opportunities where they could reduce costs. And our device as a net sum is one that reduces the bottom line. The facilities are becoming more and more cognizant of their budget. But in our go-to strategy, we feel that the US market would be kind of our initial market that we want to lead in with because of the size of the market and the fact that they are already just focused on the bottom line. In Ontario, procurement can take longer, not to say we may not focus with that. Also, co-develop there.
How are you doing on the manufacturing and scale up and sales force and all this stuff you need to make sales?
Absolutely. So on what I can state categorically is when it comes to manufacturing and scalability, that's where my team excels. We have a decade of doing this. We've helped numerous other technologies and products scale up and launch. I spent 5 years in China doing manufacturing and operations. So we're the best people to do that. I'll leave that at that. But when it comes to the sales side, and we're really looking to grow our team on the medical device and advisory side and medical sales, which is why Dr. Linda Maxwell, who's highly qualified, is advising us there. We're also right now hiring for an experienced sales individual so that when we're ready, by the end of this year with a beta prototype, we hit the ground running on the sales side. And there's multiple ways we can monetize on sales. Key is we need to build high quality evidence to be able to explore any potential licensing, direct sales, acquisition. We just need high quality data first. And that's what we want to focus on over the next 6 years and then sales.
Thanks.
Hi, Jay, it's Izzy here. Thank you for the presentation. It looks like you're on a wonderful path here. I think the device looks amazing. I also like your line about being, having a rich IP background. You've defended IP. That definitely means you've earned the honor of that for sure.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm just wondering, you're probably getting some really useful feedback now, and I'm sure that's been all through the process. But do you have what is your IP strategy going forward for any future?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Tony at Bearskin Empire is our IP counsel. It's been fantastic. We spent a lot of time with him, and we've developed a very long and a nuanced IP approach. So as you can see, like when you look at the mechanics, somebody can copy it. Like that's not our secret sauce. What we've done is shown how our device is compact and the unique characteristics that we've filed so far, or sorry, filed for provisional so far, cover our ability to go down to the ground and how we can develop this mechanism to be compact. Now, right now, we're looking to expand that. As you saw, our device is half the width of a stretcher. That has a lot of IP in and of itself. It's completely novel. But as we go more and more into our future roadmap, it gets a lot into the controls and how our device is going to be made automated and feasible, which is something that a lot of devices haven't focused on, which is why they require technicians to operate. So that's going to be a key distinguishing factor. And a lot of our IP will be developed around that. Now, personally, we've studied hundreds of patents ourselves. We've spent a lot of time with Tony developing this. And the third data point I have is a private equity firm, Checkmate Capital, did thorough due diligence, and 2 weeks of that was spent intensively with Millbank LLC out in California, just taking a deep dive into IP and our IP readiness. And what they came back with was with this plan that we have set in motion, it's very feasible and could be highly valuable.
Excellent, wonderful, thank you. That's terrific.
Great, yes, great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you,
you mentioned Q2 of 2021. You'll be in full sales execution mode.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you see as your biggest challenges over the next 12 months to get there to Q2 2021?
Absolutely. What we've done, Peter, is try to de-risk some of the most significant challenges. The first one that comes up is regulatory. We've hired regulatory consultants first and foremost to understand what a regulatory pathway would be, and we have reports so that when it's time to file for regulatory, we know that we've done our diligence, set up our quality management system well in advance, which is what we're doing already, so that we have that one de-risked. Then we look at our ability to protect ourselves, and we're working with Bearskin and Par there on the IP side. Now, the biggest risk right now is capital, to be honest, because when we're developing hardware-based technology, a lot of times you get only one shot to execute, and if you take a shot in the wrong direction, you may not have enough capital to recalibrate. What we're trying to do is actively fundraise and build contingencies so that doesn't happen. Obviously, we're taking a shot based on the best of our knowledge, but we're always seeking more and more market feedback, which is key. And I think it's always one of the biggest risks is not being engaged enough with the market for tech companies at our stage. Going from there, you alluded to it, the sales and medical device sales, they can be very nuanced and they're not trivial by any.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to
okay.
have to cut it in there, but
thank you.
Yeah, sales would be the last challenge, and we'll address that when we get there.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Jay, for a great pitch and the Q&A. And so I think we're having the next person come on in. And
all of us has experienced rising in our blood pressure. For example, when we have a job interview, or me right now giving this pitch. These rises are normal, but in some people, it becomes serious and need to be addressed. Hi, my name is Azadeh, and today I'm presenting you Vital Tracer, a medical smartwatch which is measuring all your vital signs to your wrist. 1.56 billion of people globally suffer from high blood pressure. It includes 80% of the elderly, and it's still first leading cause of death. The current device available in the market are a cuff base, goes around the arm, inflate and deflate. It's inconvenient, bulky, and not possible to continuous monitoring. Canada is spending $200 billion annually to treating this chronic disease. However, it's possible to prevent by diagnosing it at the early stage. Of course, prevention is better than cure always. That's why the solution is Vital Tracer, a medical smartwatch which is measuring all your vital signs through your wrist using optical sensor and AI. We are able to measure blood pressure, oxygen level, body temperature, respiratory rate, heart rate, and more. We are able to pivot it and move it for the early detection of COVID-19 because we are able to measure the oxygen level continuously, body temperature, and respiratory rate and heart rate. It can alarm in case of abnormality to the healthcare provider. It can send the data in the real time. It's the best solution for remote health monitoring, especially for senior homes that they need multiple devices at the same time in the different rooms with the measuring for the elderly, which is lots of people at the same time and lots of nurses. That's why we are able to get the data from the wrist, send it with the Bluetooth to the online secure cloud. And our next main value proposition is that we are able to localize our cloud for this health center, hospital, or senior homes. That's why they can keep all the information from the patient in their local station. And we have a machine learning to estimate accurately with the same level of medical device for all the vital signs. And it's easy to share with the family doctor and or caregiver. We have an extensive team of experts, including myself, who has 10 years experience in a biomedical area for cuffless blood pressure monitoring estimation with AI and machine learning for my master and PhD at the University of Ottawa. We are doing our patent with the FastScan law firm. And right now, we received a 500 units pre-order from McGill Age Center for the dementia project, as well as Calgary University for the COVID-19. We are able to give them a hardware technology, and they can concentrate and give them a raw signal, and they can concentrate it for their own medical application, like a dementia, sleep apnea, COVID-19, and you name it. Of course, we are doing B2B business with the senior homes, and we can also do a licensing with the bigger companies. So the main difference between us and other wearable like Apple and Fitbit, that they are clearly not medical device. They cannot localize their cloud and information for the healthcare providers. And right now they don't have enough sensors in their technology to measure the oxygen level, respiratory rate, and body temperature. So we are a perfect match for COVID-19 early detection. And we are accurate, same as other medical devices like Omron and wearable devices like Apple. We went through the long journey from MyTax, University of Ottawa, and lots of accelerate and incubator, including the CDL, McGill, D3 Concordia. Now we did the patents, we are doing our industrial design, we are doing our manufacturing for 1,000 units. We are proudly raised a $1 million non-dilutive funds from the government to run our clinical trial at the McGill University, at the Glen Hospital, and St. Justin for Children. Of course, we are going to get the FDA approval and Health Canada and a scale up. With a Vital Tracer, your health's gonna be in your hand, or better yet, on your wrist. Thank you.
Thanks, Azadeh. Okay, Peter, sounds like you have a question.
Yes, I do. You mentioned your key differentiation with others such as Apple and Fitbit. Who do you consider to be your greatest competitor? And if not today, perhaps over the next 12 months or so?
Yes, sure. We have a very two good competitors right now in a market. Like we are all the startups, other startups. We are among the other startups that they are trying to measure blood pressure, continuous monitoring, and all other vital signs. One of them is called Actia, that they are from Switzerland, and they were raised $15 million. Our differentiation between us and them, that they are only concentrating on a blood pressure, and our main value proposition in here that we are doing all vital signs, not only blood pressure through the wrist. And there is another one called BioBeat that they got a 510K clearance as well from FDA, and they are doing all vital signs. But our differentiation between us and them that they are not localizing the cloud for their hospitals. Right now in Canada, we have a very good, like we have a high restriction for confidential information, and we are doing that. I can say that. And also we believe that the market would be large enough for other startups to be running at the same time, because one person is innovating car, but we have lots of different manufacturing who's selling cars to different populations.
So will you be selling direct to end users or
No.
also, okay.
So, no, we preferred doing a business to business. We are having two target market at the current situation. One is the researcher that due to COVID-19, they are very good niche market. We are able to raise $500,000 by the end of this year. But they are small, we know. But the other one is post-surgery monitoring. That's why we are running our clinical trial for post-surgery monitoring for the adult and infant in 2 different hospitals for the next year, 21.
Oh, hi, Azadeh.
Hello.
Is that okay, Peter?
Yeah.
Okay. So you went through CDL, right? So the majority of your funding has been non-dilutive. What's been the climate for other types of funding?
We haven't. Once we tried on last September, we tried to fundraising through the Angel and VCs, but we find that the expectation is much more higher, and we could get good grants from the government of Quebec, especially Ministry of Economy and Innovation. So we figure out that why we're going to get any equity, since that we can do it non-dilutive. But at the same time, the expectation of the VCs are very high. They say that if we finish our validation with the clinical trial, they are willing to invest in our company, which I believe that it's too late.
And also, sorry, last thing, what experience do you have with this data sharing with clinicians outside of the hospital where your devices are in a cloud? And have you been given the go-ahead to do that with McGill or the folks in Alberta?
No, both of them, they have a restriction that they keep all the information inside. So the hospital didn't accept it. That's why we changed our policy to localize it. That's why we find that that's a very good value proposition from our company. But at the same time, we are getting the results. We are using the results of this information to increase the accuracy of the algorithm. But we don't keep all the information. We just keep the result of the information.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
Izzy, did you have any questions?
I just wanted to say, wonderful presentation. I'm so glad to see that you are, well on your way with IP strategy, in terms of patenting the technology and also the look of it as well, the industrial design aspects. I guess my only question would be around, obviously the regulatory, we sort of talked about a bit, but what about have you considered trade secret protection and copyright protection for other aspects of your technology?
Not a trade secret, because we went through the trade secret for a couple of years. So we had our AI algorithm for the blood pressure since 2016 for a couple of years. But we found that then if we want to raise more money for the future, all the main parts that VC wants is IP to like a patent.
That's right, proprietary protection of your proprietary technology to have a monopoly over that. Yes, that's fair. As we always say, every patent starts out as a trade secret. So I think you've had that, you've really experienced that with your technology. That's great to hear. It's wonderful to see that you're so on top of it.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's time for that. So thank you, Azadeh. Thanks for a great pitch and for the Q&A.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you. So be in touch with you, and I'll give the judges a minute while we bring in the next person.
Worldwide, 1 in every 6 people will have a stroke in their lifetime. Stroke can happen to anyone, but disproportionately, it occurs in older adults. A friend of mine was a practicing radiologist nearing retirement, and he had a stroke about a year ago now, and today he can't walk on his own, and it takes him half an hour to type out a single sentence of an email. This kind of permanent disability may have been avoided if his post-stroke rehabilitation had been done differently. Mobility can be regained during rehab, which is focusing on repetitive exercise that actually helps people regain lost function through rebuilding the lost connections in the brain. But there's an urgency here. A patient has only 3 months to regain lost functionality due to the way the brain heals, and they need at least 3 hours of daily physical therapy. Here's the problem. There are not enough therapists to provide patients with adequate exercise time during their full-time stay in rehab, and this leads to only 1 in every 10 patients making a full recovery. Patients in Ontario receive only 1 hour of therapy despite living at these facilities full-time. Something needs to be done to reduce lost therapy time and improve patient outcomes. So we've developed a solution which enables patients to exercise when they're not with a therapist, unlocking 12 hours of otherwise wasted therapy time. The most severely affected patients can't sit up on their own. Our SmartVest can these patients into a healthy upright position, just like what a therapist would do with their arms. Then we slowly relax the support provided so that patients must engage their own core muscles to maintain that upright position. This allows for repetitive engagement of the core muscles throughout the day. This low intensity, highly repetitive approach that we offer is known to be helpful to recovery. We also use smart data analytics to constantly monitor the patient's progress and automatically adjust to their needs so that patients at all stages of recovery can benefit from using our device. We focus this first product on the development of the core muscles because they're a pivotal muscle group that forms the foundations for overall independence and all mobility. Our competitors focus on improving what little time patients spend with their therapy teams, which is at most 3 hours. So the robotic assisted devices on the market today can only be worn for a limited time during that time when patients are supervised by the therapist. And we've flipped this approach by enabling and empowering patients to exercise throughout the day in addition to the existing therapy time. So our device can be worn throughout the day and become active when the patient can benefit most. So there are 50,000 cases of stroke every year in Canada, and 40% of these go to inpatient rehab. Better recovery for patients means that they can regain their independence and go home rather than to long-term care facilities. So this is life-changing things for the patient, and it is also financially beneficial to the healthcare system. So based on related research, we expect our SmartVest to reduce patient length of stay by 30% while improving patient outcomes. And so this has a direct cost-saving impact at each Canadian facility of about $1.5 million per year. And this equates to about $200 million per year across Canada. A recent study found that the cost to stroke sufferers in the healthcare system as a whole amounts to about $2.5 billion per year, including indirect costs such as caregiving and home modifications. The study found that if patients were not disabled on discharge, that these associated costs were cut in half. And so through the use of our SmartVest, we're lowering patient disability and therefore also contributing to these long-term cost savings. We're coming into the market as a one-time direct sale to rehab facilities, and there are 15,000 of these across North America, leading to a total addressable market of about $7.5 billion. My co-founder and I are both mechanical engineers from the University of Waterloo. Our primary advisor is Dr. James Tong, who is an expert in assistive devices and rehabilitation engineering. We're also supported by multiple organizations, including the Ontario Brain Institute, and are partnering with multiple clinicians and researchers across the country and beyond that as well. So we've successfully developed a working version of our product and have tested it on a patient with no core control. So our patent pending technology we feel is now ready for more formal testing, which we'll be running in partnership with the University of Waterloo as soon as the lockdowns permit us to do so. We're financially set to run the first part of the study, which is focused on design optimization. The second phase of the study is where we feel that the money from the money can have the most impact on us here. This is where we're proving efficacy of the device, which we will then use to raise private investment with this kind of this proof needed to take the device to market, which we hope to be in the market running pilot sales in Q2 of 2021. So thank you for listening. We're Stabilo Medical. I hope you can help us on our journey to accelerate recovery for millions worldwide.
Thank you, Aaron. Hand it over to the judges.
Hey, Aaron, how you doing? This is Garth.
Hi, Garth.
Well done. It's good to see a vest now, so that's good.
Yeah, it's definitely coming.
An actual vest. That's good. Where are you on the formal clinical validation? So you're making claims about wearing this vest is going to be better.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So first of all, I want to emphasize that all the work that we've been doing so far, we haven't been doing in a vacuum. We've been working with therapists and clinicians all along the way, even from the beginning when we came up with the idea, when we saw that this is a real problem through talking to therapists, and they've been involved in the development of this concept from the beginning. So because of these relationships, we've been able to have therapists try our device on to kind of validate that this is something that they see benefit in with their patients and really working to create the most impact as possible. But beyond that, this is all based in research that shows that early engagement of the core muscles is correlated to better outcomes in stroke rehab. There's also multiple studies that show that having patients sit up frequently throughout their sitting patients up throughout their rehab process rebuilds this core control if it's done repetitively throughout the day, and that's very important to the recovery. And there's actually studies that show this, and that's the reason why this is an exercise already that patients are doing with their therapy teams, because we're simply taking that exercise now and making it so that patients can do this throughout the day.
Yeah, so I think that you're lucky that you have all that literature, so you can take out some of the measures that they're measuring, and then as your therapists are working with these folks, you can make a measure like, we can decrease the rehab time by 45% or something, some number that you can hang your hat on. Anyways,
and these are numbers that so they exist in the literature, but of course we want to prove that using our device is going to give those same outcomes. So like we know it's going to work based on the literature out there and what we've done, but that's why we need to run these tests ourselves as well using our product.
Great, thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Aaron. It's Izzy here. Thank you so much for your presentation. It's causing me to improve my posture as I listen to this. This is a wonderful product that you're producing. So I'm wondering, you've been getting feedback. Obviously, it's been an iterative design process, I understand. Are you looking to build any additional features that aren't already in the vest? I mean, is there sort of future developments on the horizon for you?
Yeah, there are. So I think there's a lot of possibilities here. Right now, the vest that we have, it works how I've described it, but there's a lot of potential to monitor the patient's progress, first of all, and really provide a lot of good information to the therapy teams, so that that when patients are with their therapy teams during that limited time in the day, that it's being spent as effectively as possible. And so that data component, I think, will be huge. Another aspect is the motivation aspect in therapy. It's a lot of patients have a lot of troubles being motivated to regain their functionality, their lost mobility, because stroke happens so suddenly and it's so debilitating often. And so something like a queuing system that kind of involves some sort of virtual reality I think is very promising as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, did you have any questions?
Curious, great presentation, Aaron. I like the way you identified the problem to solve and connected it to system savings and patient benefits. When you take this to market, who will your buyer be? Will it be, hospitals and rehab facilities, or, is there a market for end users here?
Yeah, that's a good point. And for sure, so we've decided that the where we can offer the most value in this early stage is in the rehab clinic itself. And so entering the market, we are going to be selling to rehab facilities and hospitals, but there is a lot of potential in the future to sell to patients who of course see a ton of value here in regaining their mobility, and even that's the most important thing, that patients are regaining their mobility, but also with their personal cost savings, because there is a lot of cost savings associated for the patients themselves for not having these long-term disabilities. And so we do have plans in the future to make this a device that can be sold to consumers, and with the right data, have that potentially covered by insurance as well. But that's a further down the road plan after we enter the market.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Aaron, for the pitch and the Q&A.
Yeah, thank you.
It's great to hear from you. And that's the last pitch. So if the judges had any notes they want to make, Aaron, you can feel free to log off. We'll be in touch. It's good to get an update from you as well.
Okay, thank you. So should I just remain near the computer or?
No, no, that's good. You can log off completely.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
So that's that. Thanks everyone, and I'll just say thank you to the judges for their valuable insights, and we're going to do some deliberating now, and then find out who the winner is. So that is it for our pitches. Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to thank our judges, Izzy, Garth, and Peter, for helping us with making a really tough decision. And I know while these kinds of marks are kind of cliche, I'm sure everyone in the audience is thoroughly impressed by these entrepreneurs and the impact that they're having and will have on the lives of older adults. So now, while we prepare to do the winner announcement, we're excited to bring you an amazing panel that's going to help inform us about age tech and brain health. So for the audience, you can actually send questions at slido.com, and you can use the event code #26284 and submit your questions there. And we'll see if we can get any of those in with the panel. So I want to introduce our panelists now. Firstly, Dr. Garth Smith is the VP of Business Development and Partnerships at the Ontario Brain Institute, a longtime partner of AgeWell, and really one of the key organizations in neurotech and brain health in general. Jim Mann is on the Federal Minister of Health's first advisory board on dementia. He is an advisory council member of Research Ethics BC and a member of AgeWell's Research Management Committee. He was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2007, and Jim now volunteers his time to focus on living as well as possible with dementia. And finally, Dr. Lily Liu is the Dean of Applied Health Sciences at the University of Waterloo. She has worked in this field for quite some time and made a big impact, and her research examines ways that technologies can help older adults and family caregivers. So I'm going to get right into some questions for our panelists, and I'll address the questions to each of you, but we can maybe also have a discussion if it develops. And I'm going to start with you, Lily. And my first question is, in your experience, where have you seen the best or the most promising impact of technology on cognitive health?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Hi, everyone. I'm going to pick 3 types of technologies that are ubiquitous and they're affordable through various mobile devices. And they are in the area of social media, digital games, or digital platforms, and in virtual reality. And the reason I pick these is because people can identify with them. They seem to be a part of our everyday lives now. And yet they also provide a framework for very creative content development in the area of health, in the area of entertainment, and that sort of thing. My all-time favorite story about social media actually is a story that was profiled on CBC Spark that's hosted by Nora Young. She still does this, but this was a story out in 2009 where it was called Twittering Grandma, Digital Legacy and Ageism in Design. So this was quite a while ago, over 10 years ago, and yet the story still resonates so much with me, and I share the story as much as I can. It's a story about how the young man and his grandmother were brought together because the man's mother had died. And the grandmother was undergoing severe depression after losing her daughter. And during a visit, the two sort of separate generations were doing parallel activities. He just felt he needed to be near her while she was going through her depression. She was watching TV. He was on Twitter with his friends. So they weren't really interacting, but she was making some dry, humorous comments about what she was watching on TV. And he decided to tweet it to his friends. And in this process, his friends got more interested in her than in him. So he set up her own Twitter account. And in a short matter of time, she developed a huge following around the world. And they learned about her time during the war, how on the day when the war was over, her then fiance had been killed. And so through that sort of social connection and following, without her ever having to interact with the technology, it's a demonstration of how social media it brought her out of her depression, and how this, in this way, is a real, I think, tool for social engagement. Digital games is another good example of how we can make assessments, cognitive assessments, less intimidating for individuals, less sort of, quote, put on the spot. And a good example is actually a project that we worked on when I was at the University of Alberta with Dr. Frank Canova, who's also a AgeWell researcher out of Breer Memory Clinic. And we had developed at the U of A whack-a-mole game. This is the first scientific I know that used sort of whack-a-mole in the title. It was really quite amusing. And they were able to demonstrate with, also in collaboration with Carleton University, how they were able to use these games that were specially designed for moderate to severe dementia population and be able to engage them, create a sense of competition, and at the same time be able to remotely monitor and assess their cognition without asking them these very intimidating traditional types of questions. And then the third one, in terms of virtual reality, it's very accessible if we're not expecting very complicated, expensive technology for immersive experience, for example, but it can be done alone when a person has to be isolated, as in situations like this, or in a group. And you can provide experiences like armchair tourism, which can really bring people out and give them the sense of experience or a sense of nostalgia. So these are the three, I think, that are readily available, that are making a tremendous impact and lots of room to grow.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks, Lily. Thanks for sharing also that really uplifting story, and kind of speaks to how there are different ways to engage with technology. Sometimes, directly yourself, but other times with the help of people in your family. So that's good. And anytime whack-a-mole can be integrated into something, it's a win in my books. But I'm going to move to you, Jim, who I know you've probably had exposure and experience with all kinds of technologies, whether it's because of your link to AgeWell, but also with all the other hats you wear in this space. So, can you speak to technology and cognitive health or dementia, and your thoughts on maybe where some good has been done?
Well, I have, thanks, Mike. I have been a collaborator on a few research projects involving technology that have shown, for example, the significant benefits around touchscreen tablets use in both acute and long-term care. And the research has shown an increase in socialization and a reduction in responsive behaviors for people with dementia, all of which is certainly very positive, especially in these challenging times. And research is also ongoing with the use of robots, Paro and Pepper, I think, and others. While I can't think of necessarily specifics, I know that at the AgeWell conferences that I've attended, I've seen presentations and there's the showcase of research and associated product outcomes, many of which have been focused on people with dementia, and that I've certainly been very impressed with those products and the research.
Great. So thanks, Jim. And I know at AgeWell we always look for your perspective and the perspective of older adults in general when it comes to seeing whether the work that's being done makes sense and whether it is having an impact and whether it will have an impact even at the earliest stages. So getting your insights and your feedback on what you've seen in general, I think is always helpful, not just for us at AgeWell, but for anyone looking to develop something in this space. So with that, finally, I'll move on to you, Garth. I mean, I think it's probably been something like 10 years that you've been with OBI, and you've probably seen it all in terms of entrepreneurs and startups trying to do something in this space, and definitely interested in hearing what you have to say here.
Thanks, Michael. Yes, so we've seen a lot of technology that from the OBI's perspective, and traditionally one of the things that we really like to look at is clinically validated neurotech, and it's going to come up time and time again when I speak on this panel. And some of the things that we're seeing that has been pretty exciting is in the world of digital therapeutics, where they're mixing digital games with traditional interventions to really see some gains in the neuroscience space. I think the FDA has approved, I think, 2 recent digital therapeutics in the world of schizophrenia and depression, and there's another one that was developed a while back that actually got into a Nature article called Neuroracing that was developed by Adam Grisali in California. So I think those are really interesting, and what we are also seeing is sensors or technologies that are coming to the folks, to the people, and just be a part of their daily flow of their lives, as opposed to them having to go to a research institute or go see their doctor. You're able to assess their cognitive state just by them, their auditory signal or their ocular. They could be wearing glasses with a sensor in one of their glasses. So, for us, that's really exciting. I think we're going to talk about, invasiveness of technology in people's lives, how much that would be, something we should really consider. But the digital therapeutics, the sensors, and bringing technology to people, so it's within their daily flow and they're within their daily schedule, is something we're seeing a lot of right now.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I guess we're starting to hear some recurring ideas here, whether it's the digital games or sensors, which definitely, like you alluded to just now, Garth, can have present certain challenges, but also opportunity, as with many many innovations. So maybe that'll help me transition to our next question, and that question is really, what are the main barriers, issues, or neglected areas for age tech innovators or companies in this space, in the neurotech space, to develop technologies that are in the domain of cognitive health? So what are the kinds of issues we're seeing, and even if you want to speak to how they might be overcome. And maybe I'll just quickly jump back to Jim on this first, and Jim, from your experience, if you could speak to the kinds of challenges you think there are.
I think that knowing your consumer and your consumer's needs sounds so easy, but for the people living with dementia and their caregivers, there will be potential challenges for innovators, researchers, and companies. Will it be worth it? With the aging society and the projected increase in numbers of people diagnosed with a cognitive impairment, I do believe it is worth the effort. Additionally, the last 10 centimeters is extremely important. And what does that mean? In a report entitled Better Care, The Age of Automation by Everyone, the authors talk about the last 10 centimeters as being critical in order to realize the benefits of new technology. The authors suggest getting Alexa set up in dozens of older adults' homes may seem like a finished job, but that doesn't take into account the needs of the individual homeowners. Perhaps one of the customers has a lung condition and can't raise their voice above a whisper. Another person may have difficulty formulating questions the way artificial intelligence understands. The last 10 centimeters, the authors suggest, requires giving carers the time and resources to feed back their experiences into tech development, to be able to personalize technology and to access technical support when things go wrong. I have found such meaning in that, in the last 10 centimeters. I don't know whether you may have heard me talk about it before, Lily, but it just really resonates with me because I have a friend who helps me with my computer. His name is Stephen, and I call him my 1-800-call Stephen, my help desk. And I, after, when he's been here or when I've hung up the phone, I have said so often, what do people do when they don't have Stephen? And quite frankly, I don't know what they do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my response.
No, I think you hit on some really important key points there. I mean, like you said, the last 10 centimeters kind of speaks to that you really have to finish strong when it comes to developing and implementing, but also then supporting your innovations after the fact. And I like how you started this by saying that knowing your customer, it's like a term that gets thrown around so much in business and with startups, but really dedicating yourself to that and finding out how to learn from and hear your customer is key. Not just paying lip service to it. So thank you for
and
bringing
spending time with them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So thanks. That's always good to hear that kind of input. And I'll go back to you, Garth, for this space again. I'm sure just through the OBI, but in general, you kind of know what's good and what isn't. But you also addressed some of the potential issues in your first remarks.
Yeah, so I'm just going to give you a real eye-opening experience we had at the OBI. So a lot of institutions talk about patient impact a lot, and I'm just going to build on what Jim said, but they don't actually talk to the patients. So we actually did this, there's a UK entity called the James Lind Alliance that looks at how to you get a large group of people, and what's the top 10 things they're Googling every night, and what are they doing, what's really concerning to them. And then we looked at our research efforts in that disease area, and there was an ocean apart between what people are really concerned about and what people are researching. So that's not great. So what we did was we basically brought the customers, the patients and their caregivers into the research world. And we were able to maybe formulate some of the activities that researchers are trying to do to have some real impact. And I think that, what we've learned is that, and Lily knows this better than anybody coming from the applied sciences world, you have to actually start with a problem. Like, what is the problem you're trying to solve? And then you have all the technologies instead of guessing what the problem is, and you have to actually, have the problem. So what we've done is, and this is through the patient groups that are involved with OPI, we have about 20 of them. They've really pushed us to say, don't tell us what technologies we need. Like, come and ask us, and then we'll be happy to be involved in the product development of those those products. And we'll tell you the good, bad, and ugly in a very short period of time. And so we've started to do that. And, you know, it's sort of like what the real world's like, right? When you do consumer research, sometimes you don't get great stuff, but it's exactly what you need. You know, do we invest in this company? You know, and we find out that no one's interested in this technology. It's really slick, but it doesn't really help the situation. Then that makes it easy for us. You know, I talk about clinical validation a lot, but for us, you know, we're moving towards, you know, that real stepping into the community, you know, getting a group of people who are interested in giving real feedback about technology. And I have to say that has been an unbelievable experience for us in terms of the feedback we're getting.
Awesome. Yeah, and for sure, I think you know, Lily may have comments that she wants to make on this in general, but she can probably speak to this as well. I know getting involved with the community and you know, Garth, you even mentioned from product development onto everything, you can benefit a lot. I mean, as you mentioned, as an organization like OBI, but also as you know, as a startup, as an innovator, as a researcher, there's a lot you can gain by including people from the very beginning, so that you don't make those assumptions. Even if it is, you know, even if your idea is that you know what someone needs because in your family you've heard of this problem. There's more to a problem than your own personal experience in your families, and I think it's great that, you know, we're seeing more and hearing more about community engagement and all of that. So Lily, I don't know if you want to speak to any of that as your experience doing research in the space, or if you had anything else you wanted to add to these challenges that arise in developing tech for cognitive health.
Yeah, I can certainly do both. I can add another challenge, but I'll begin by saying I absolutely agree with Garth and with Jim. You've hit the nail right on the head. And I give you the personal experience I have is since being an AgeWell network investigator, we've experienced actually the value of involving the end users for the innovations that we propose that we are working on. And so these include older adults living with and also without dementia, and the care partners or the communities that work with them. We involve them early on in the design of the innovation, right through to knowledge translation. So at the AgeWell conferences, and this is the great thing about the AgeWell network, is they have funding opportunities. So we bring them and they all come with us. If there isn't enough funding, we'll find extra funding to bring them. We co-present. So we co-design to co-present and they tell us right to, you know, areas where we didn't even think we needed input. They are these participants are so generous with their and so caring about the impact, the final impact, and that our work is actually going to make a difference. They will just offer, and they'll tell us things like the instructions you're giving to how to do this, to the brochures or the manuals that you're developing, it's not going to work. And some of them are even participate to record some of these instructions, and it's just so valuable. So I completely agree. It just makes this so much more meaningful to the end users. So if we want to minimize that last 10 centimeters of gap, then involve them at the beginning, the first 10 centimeters of the whole initiative. I will offer one other main barrier that we're experiencing, and that is it kind of puts a twist on privacy and data ownership. You know, I think when people think about privacy and ownership of data, it's a really complex issue to wrap your head around, and we immediately go to the legislation, and we guarantee sort of in a black and white approach that it's Loctite. Your data is going to be private. When I think it's much more complicated than that. First of all, most of us don't own our data, even though we're told it's our own data. It's owned by a third party. We have to go through. It's very difficult. When I moved from Alberta to Ontario, even now I don't have it all, to actually go to a surgeon and to get the data. So, and I have to line up and I have to go to different sources. So we actually don't own our own data in the way that we think we do. So there is now, we're on the cusp of actually changing that now. And I think people are realizing that there is technology out there that we can use that will, such as blockchain, but not only that, that will allow us to actually own some of our own data so that we can use it in a way that we want to. So the work that we are doing now actually has to do with individuals who are living with dementia at risk for going missing. Now, in Canada, this is not the case for the rest of the world, but in Canada, certainly when a person goes missing, it's quite a convoluted process to get the first responders, such as police services, to participate in the search and rescue. We have to, the police do collect their own data, but because of privacy legislation, they're not able to share that data. So currently, we think 3 out of 5 people who live with dementia go missing at some time, but in the course of the disease. But we actually don't know what the real number is. We don't know the new incidents. So as a public health issue, when it comes to this population at risk for going missing, we have very little data to work with. So it is possible through some of this technology, we can have individuals own a certain amount of data that they can release, not only to first responders when they go missing and start their search and rescue much sooner, but that they can actually release this data anonymously to research communities so that we can do more to understand the particular issue. And this can apply to many other conditions, not just this particular case.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting, almost like an added layer to data privacy, the whole idea of data ownership, which really kind of an individual level even gives you that greater control. So that's a really interesting point to bring up. And I think because we've had a very kind of some recurring themes here as well. I was just curious if anyone else had any other input they wanted to give on this question, this topic of these challenges. I think Garth might.
Yeah. So that's a fantastic point, Lily. And I think that one of the reasons, so we're still going to live in the dream world that the patients own their data. That's just where we're going to live. And that's why we built our informatics platform as a outside entity. And another thing that the patients have been telling us is, give us that patient portal that can, do all the consenting. And when we do these community studies, right, at the end of the day, they have to feel like they have control of their data for us to make this happen. And so it's a very interesting problem to have. It's simple if you just keep it as patient owns the data. It gets really complicated when there's other third parties that hang on to data. So we've kind of removed that barrier, but it's still a cultural change for this, even in the medical world, even within the Ministry of Health or the caregivers, the data silos are still within each of those sections. When we went outside of it and had the patients kind of say, we'll give you data, or we can manage who gets to see our data in real time, it makes it very simple. So I think there is a solution for it. I just think that maybe certain entities should just respect the fact that patients actually are the ones that are supposed to own their data.
Mm-hmm.
Try not to be too controversial here, Michael. So
no, it's fine, and there's obviously controversy around this topic in general, right? But I'm sure most people would agree with what's been said here regarding this. Yeah, there's some challenges to maybe delivering on some of this technically, but that's no excuse for not taking that route. So if anyone else has any more input on this, let me know or try to indicate it. But otherwise, we do have a question to pass on from the audience. And this question, and this time I will start with you, Garth. This question is about what the role for technology. So if there is a role for technology to play, and it sounds like from everything we've discussed, you all feel that is the case, then do you think that startups or organizations or companies that are in the space or supporting innovation in the space, are they right now on the right track when it comes to making an impact here for persons living with dementia or those living with mild cognitive impairment? Is there anything that they can do to improve? I think we've hinted at some of this through everything you've said, but maybe there's some more you can add on this. So Garth,
yeah. So I think there's lots. So I think Canada in general, and I can speak to the Ontario situation and from my limited knowledge of the rest of Canada, we do startups really well. There's lots and lots of startups. Waterloo produces so many startups. We help them with non-dilutive funding. We help them with clinical validation. We have unbelievable researchers that can serve as key opinion leaders to help them with their clinical validation. And then we introduce them to really good investors. So for Jim's last 10 centimeters, for us, it's the last mile in terms of how do you realize that investment in these startups into the healthcare system at large here in Ontario and in Canada. And the vast majority of our companies, if they need reimbursement or they would like to do selling, they traditionally go to the US and they traditionally go and you know, the procurement reimbursement system in Canada is too much for a small company to take on. And Michael, I don't have to say this to you, you've lived that, right? So, and I think that there's a recognized system of selling to certain entities where companies can do really well. I think there's a lost opportunity for us that, you know, we don't have a system, or maybe I don't know about it, but we don't have a system that allows companies to interact with the healthcare system in Canada. So that's why we're doing the community things, because I think there are certain products that can be privately connected to the patients. The ones that are going to be very large scale and have a larger impact that, you know, need a reimbursement code, I think we're missing out on a lot of technologies that are going elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, I will add one thing to that is when things like this pandemic happen, you can see how suddenly, you know, barriers that have been there to technology and the impact of technology can suddenly come down really quickly. So you know, perhaps that could be a lesson learned about the ways we can change our thinking about you know, innovative or novel technologies and finding a way to let them impact people's lives. So that's
virtual telehealth is going through the roof right now because we needed it. And then all these companies that have struggled to get a footprint or foothold in the Ontario market are now hiring people because they have to keep up with demand.
Yeah. Okay. So so Lily, I'll hand over to you. And you know, do you have anything you'd add about the space and, you know, what direction we're going in and where maybe we can improve?
Yeah, I think, Mike, you've assembled a group of very like-minded individuals here on the panel. I completely agree with every word that Garth has said. Absolutely, I think, unfortunately, Canada produces some great innovation, but acquisition seems to, by Americans or by other larger companies that just absorb them, seems to be, I think, a metric of success, particularly at Waterloo. And I think that we need to change that. And I think the pandemic has demonstrated that local sourcing and production is of value to us now. And I think that this is the time to try and change the mindset of these innovators and innovations and provide support and resources, not just for startups, but particularly for scale-ups locally. And we need to create ways within Canada to within Ontario, et cetera, to allow clinical trials to facilitate that. Because I know there are Canadian companies that have been forced to go to Europe, for example, because it's easier just to do clinical trials there. And then we run the risk of losing you know, the market to outside of Canada. I will also just make a comment about commercialization. I think there's a lot of emphasis on commercialization in the business sector. I know CABI does a wonderful job and has we've been funded by them to do lots of great and wouldn't be able to do it without them. But there's a lot of focus on commercialization in this particular space, as I alluded to earlier, and Garth mentioned you know, the American FDA approval of now software and applications. I think that a lot of this in the health space may not necessarily be commercialized products that we want to see. We want them to be out there, especially if they're publicly funded research projects in Canada. We want them to be accessible to people. And it's not always I don't think there's anything wrong with producing something that is going to be shared, validated, clinically validated, but be able to use maybe for a small license fee, but not necessarily to be sort of commercialized in the way that we think about, factory productions and that sort of thing. So I think sometimes success and the metrics need to also be looked at in terms of adoption and what a big social impact and health impact it makes, and not necessarily about how many factories or companies it's created and made people wealthy. So just like to put a shout out for those kinds of metrics of success.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true. It definitely speaks to the broader picture at play, in that, it's not just the fact that there is a whole roadmap or pathway for innovation. It's that it kind of goes to a broader level than just the commercial impact, like you say. So that is an important point. And with that, Jim, I wanted to give you the last word on this, and also kind of as we're kind of wrapping up the panel, I definitely want to know what your thoughts are, especially as you have exposure to this in so many different ways. Like, what do you think about where we're going, and are we on the right track? Are we going to be making an impact as we are, or can we do things better?
I guess in some ways, my thinking or my answer is a little bit of the second question, in that if on the right track you mean focusing on this sector, then using technology, then yes, we are. Then I think it's we're doing things right. But for the leads of startups and organizations or individuals who support them, I think the impact is felt, given, if you consider the KISS formula, keep it simple, stupid. And because technology sounds easy and it sounds great, and in many cases it is, it's also simple to recommend, but there's always a catch. And I'll give you an example. I get disoriented walking in my own neighborhood, and I've heard more than once that, that's an easy solution, Jim. Just pull out your smartphone and get reoriented. It's easy. But it's one of those, it's easy to say, but harder to do. Because when you think about it, I get halfway around the long block and I'm disoriented. I'm looking around, I sort of know where I am and what I'm doing, but I'm lost. But yet, in some ways, I'm really not lost, if you look at the true sense of the word. So I've just lost the here and now. But so when you think about it, do you really think that I'm going to have the wherewithal to pull out my smartphone and say, okay, now where am I and what am I doing? I did get disoriented 3 times and trying to walk around the block, and now I don't. But so I use that example in suggesting that taking the time to learn about the older adults' challenges, to understand their comfort level with technology, will ensure that together something is developed that hits all the right notes, both for that individual and potentially many others. But one size doesn't fit all, to be sure, but similarities and daily issues exist that can change living with dementia to actually living well with dementia. And I just cite one researcher who was reported in an Age Well project. He said the insights offered by the older adults was valuable to the project because the older adults provided a new perspective and knowledge based on lived experience. So,
well,
hopefully that answered your question.
It did, and I think in a way it's actually the perfect way to capture what's come out of a lot of this panel discussion, and that's the importance of that engagement, spending time with, as you said earlier, Jim, and listening to and engaging with older adults and older adults living with dementia or mild cognitive impairment, because there's a lot that happens when people make assumptions, or even if they read about something that can lead to the wrong kind of solution or the wrong pathway. So I'm really grateful that we ended on that note to get that perspective once again, and to really encapsulate it in a way that I don't think could have been said any better. So with that, just because of our timing, I do have to wrap up the panel, but I'd really like to thank each of our panelists, Jim, Lily, and Garth, for giving us these insights and letting us learn, and also hopefully even beyond this, reflect on this topic, so that we all benefit in the way we engage in this space. So thank you for the time and for your lived experience and your experience and knowledge overall. With those words, I'm going to move on to the announcement of some winners in this competition and otherwise. And first, I'd like to announce the audience winner of our Kobo Clara HDE reader, which was kindly donated by Rakuten Kobo, also a partner of AgeWell. And the winner of that is Wanda Deschamps. So Wanda, you can reach out to info@agewell-nce.ca, or just go on our website and you will see where you can contact us anyway, and we will make sure that you get your prize. Now, before I announce the winner, I'd just like to briefly thank our sponsors that made this event possible, as well as the overall series of events in the AgeWell National Impact Challenge. And that is the Aging 2.0 local chapter in Halifax, the BC Seniors Living Association, Bearskin and PAR, CARP, IBM Canada, the Impact Center at U of T, InnovaCore, Innovation PI, New Brunswick Innovation Foundation, the Ontario Brain Institute, Spectrum Healthcare, and You Are Unlimited. And in particular, for this competition, I'd really like to highlight and thank the Ontario Brain Institute, which has been at the forefront of innovation in neurotech in Ontario and beyond, and has been a great partner and supporter of AgeWell. And I would also like to thank Spectrum Healthcare for helping to make it possible for us to support innovation and entrepreneurship in this sector through this competition. And of course, Bearskin and PAR, who works with us on IP needs for innovators and startups. Now, I'm going to announce the winners of this competition. And first, I would like to announce the winner of the Bearskin and PAR IP prize for innovation, which is valued at $2,500 and is going to assist the startup in IP protection. And this prize goes to Braze Mobility. So congratulations to Braze Mobility. And thank you to Pooja for giving us a great pitch and showing us where they are and where they're going. And now I'm going to announce the winner of the overall competition, which will receive the AgeWell Startup Affiliate Program membership to continue working with AgeWell in this sector to help make the impact and move their innovation forward, as well, and very importantly, obviously for them, the cash prize of $20,000. And so the winner of competition 2 of the AgeWell National Impact Challenge is Able Innovations. So congratulations to Able Innovations and to Jay. And I believe we'll be able to bring Jay in to
right
make
here.
some remarks. There you go. Congrats, Jay.
Thank you so much, Michael. And I'm over the moon. Obviously, these are very unusual times. So first of all, I'd like to congratulate you for pushing innovation forward through these very interesting and pressing times. And now more than ever, entrepreneurs need encouragement and support of organizations such as yourself, such as OBI, to keep on our mission. As the key part is persistence. And I also really want to thank AgeWell specifically, because AgeWell is one of the first organizations I actually reached out to when I was studying what was happening in the space of patient transfer. And through that, I met excellent researchers, and it is through that network that I'm now talking to potential customers. And I take immense pride in being here today and being given the privilege to get feedback from all these very qualified judges and this exposure. It's very invaluable. Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks, Jay. We definitely look forward to continuing to work with you and to ensuring that we, like the panelist earlier said today, we make sure we get input from all the stakeholders and people that could benefit from your innovation. So, congrats once again.
Thank you so much, and we're really excited to start making a positive change here.
Great. Okay, so that essentially wraps up our event. Again, thank you to the audience, of course, for joining us. It's obviously we want as many people as possible to learn about these innovations and to learn about insights about age tech and the aspects of engaging with the community that you heard about today. And on that note, for those of you that are looking to be more engaged with technology for older adults and caregivers, I'd really encourage you and invite you to visit the AgeWell website and to connect with us there so that we can work together to improve life for older adults and caregivers. And you'll see a note. We do have one more competition this series, but that will be at the end of September. So details are to follow on how to become a part of that, but we're looking forward to that as well. So thank you everyone for joining and for hearing our pitches and all the insights. Definitely look forward to hearing from some of you outside the scope of this. So all the best and take care.
Thanks, Michael. Take care.